Hello, I'm Daniel Goddard. This is my research presentation on the Little Ice Age for meteorology. One thing I think is interesting to note is that the Little Ice Age is a period that takes place between the 16th and 19th century, specifically ending at around 1850 and starting like 1500s. Some say kind of before that by like 100 years, but around there. And this is the period after the medieval warming period and leads up into our current understanding of science and whatnot. This period primarily affects the North Atlantic, but it did lower overall global ocean levels, and it's an important frame of reference since a lot of modern science starts at the end of this period with its change, and it's a most important thing is people point to this as sort of the cold dip between the two warming periods of the medieval warming period and the modern warming period, which is very wrong and should not be used as evidence for denying climate change by people, because they say, well, this is the cold period, and so today in the modern age it is the warm period, which is not a good way to look at it. But what caused this unusual thing? Well, I think the big ones are volcanic activity and ocean circulation. Volcanic activity, you have four of the biggest volcanic explosions around this time, and that puts up a bunch of chemicals into the atmosphere, which reduce the amount of incoming solar radiation into the Earth. And for ocean circulation, the medieval warming period melted a lot of the glacier of Iceland, a lot of the ice, putting a bunch of fresh water, into the North Atlantic, which then proceeded to reduce the temperature by changing the circulation of the Gulf Stream, preventing more warmer water from getting up there, lowering the temperature. Other things to note is the Milankovitch cycles. As we continue, they are going down in temperature very slightly, so it's not super relevant. It's also possible that people have, in relation, caused this decrease in temperature due to the fact that there were less people at the start of this period after the Black Death. And these less people means less pre-industrial anthropomorphic change via deforestation, which less deforestation means more reforestation and less change, or in more change, or in lower temperatures. It's important to note that these lower temperatures caused a lot of strife, or they didn't cause directly, but they influenced it due to this colder, drier climate. People get angrier at each other trying to grow crops that they can't grow, and sun won't come up, and all sorts of these problems. So this may have influenced, sort of persecutions and of minor groups, which at the time would have been science and research groups, because of a greater strain on resources. As a resource strain gets greater, and people start blaming everything. It's important to note the greater historical context of this. Across places like, especially the Dutch and England, you can see it in the paintings that this had a really profound effect in a lot of you can see freezing over of various rivers and creations of ice festivals and whatnot that are no longer around today. And, they were around for like 200 years, but they sort of just phased out, because obviously warmer temperatures today. And I think the most important thing is people use this as sort of this is the cycle. It gets cold and then it gets warm. But when you look at today's warming, on the average global temperature, it's way hotter than even the medieval warming period, and especially compared to, the Little Ice Age, it's not, the dip is not really relevant. And this is the last point in our history where glaciers were growing, and 1850, the ending of the period, that's where a lot of our data on observing things like glacier growth and whatnot started. So important frame reference as to the start of modern science and what we have been recording for the past 150 so years, 170 now actually. Thank you. That's this presentation.